Today we're going to talk about how to apply for a trademark application the right way. Ready? Let's do this. Hey, my name is Jim Hart. I am a trademark lawyer and entrepreneur and YouTuber, obviously. And if you are an entrepreneur and you're trying to build a brand online, that could be an e-commerce store, maybe it's something you're trying to start with an Amazon brand, or potentially you're trying to create a store on Shopify, or maybe you're just a coach or a consultant trying to build a brand name around that, or software. It could be anything, really. Pretty much any business that you're trying to build, whether it's online, offline, that you're trying to take to the next level. In other words, you don't want to just be stuck in this job that you've formed for yourself as a so-called business. You actually are trying to create something bigger than yourself, a brand that's bigger than yourself, something you want to take to the next level. And if that sounds like something that you are looking to do, then getting your trademarks in order and making sure your intellectual property is protected is probably something that is pretty important to you. But let's be honest, filing a trademark application, although it seems easy on its face, is one of the more complicated aspects of protecting your business from a legal standpoint. And so for a lot of you out there, you may be nervous or scared or worried that you're going to do it wrong, that you're going to waste a lot of money. If you're looking to build a business and build a brand, then you really want to make sure you get this done the right way. Because if you don't do it the right way, there's a motorcycle outside. I don't know if you can hear it. Wow, that's really loud. It was actually closer to 4 motorcycles. And it's amazing to me, living here in Europe, that they don't have more restrictions on noise related to like motorcycles, because everyone here is pretty much, it's kind of like community first type of attitude, right? And you would think that a loud noise like that would be enough to justify some sort of regulation, because it's quite a bit of noise pollution, but whatever. So there's a couple things that you need to understand about trademarks and why this is so important. If you mess it up, or if you don't take it seriously, then either A, you could be wrongfully using somebody else's name, we call that accidental infringement, or B, somebody could see what you're doing and they could steal your name and then try and register that name and then stop you from using it in the future. Or C, you could get into a situation where you're looking to sell your business at some point down the road and somebody wants to buy it based on the strength of your brand, and then they realize that you haven't actually registered the trademark for that, and so either the deal falls through or they knock a bunch of money off the purchase price, and so that's a problem. So not getting your trademarks in order and not doing this properly can have significant financial impacts for you and for your business. So let's go through how to actually register a trademark. Let's do it right now. Let's go for it. Very first step is that you need to pick the right name for your brand. And what do I mean by this? Well, I've done other videos on how to pick the right name, so I'm not going to delve into that here today, but I do want to just remind you that there are 5 classes of names that can be used when you're applying for a trademark, and those classes are, at the one end of the spectrum, not capable of registration, are generic and descriptive, and then the types that are capable of registration are suggestive, arbitrary, and fanciful. And so you want to stick on this side of the spectrum. You want to pick a name that is either suggestive, arbitrary, or fanciful, and make sure you stick on this side. So if you've got questions about that, I've done another video I'll put right here that talks about the different types of names that you can use when you're registering your brand. Basically what you need to know is make sure your name is not too descriptive. Like if somebody says your name, they don't immediately think of the product or service that you sell. And also make sure it's not generic. In other words, don't name your brand after the product you're selling. Both of those are bad choices for names from a trademark standpoint. So once you have your name picked out and you're ready to move forward, the next thing you need to make sure you do is you need to identify the goods and services that you're going to be selling under that name. And normally, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, wouldn't we do a knockout search at this point? Well, you can't do a knockout search until you know what it is that you're actually going to be selling under the name, because there's a lot of different classes of goods and services that you might apply for, and you want to make sure you're covering all those in the knockout search. And so right now what you need to do is you need to define what the goods and services are that you're going to be selling and what classes you're going to be selling those goods and services in. I'm going to include a link down below to a website that you can go to. It's a free website where you can just type in what it is that you're actually going to be selling. They could be products, they could be services, anything. So make sure you're very clear about what it is that you're selling. Type it in there. It's going to pop up a list of results, and it's going to tell you what classes you're selling in, and it's going to give you some suggested examples of what you could use as a description for those goods or services for when you put that directly onto your trademark application. So that's the second thing you need to do. Coffee time. Still going with the Portuguese mug. So once you have your name that you want to use and you've got the goods and services that you're thinking about selling under, then the next thing you need to do is do a knockout search. To do this, you're also going to go to the USPTO website. I'll include a link down below of where you want to go for that. And you're going to basically do a search for your name. Do a search for different variations of your name. So if you've got blue in your name, you might want to make sure you spell B-L-U-E. You also want to spell B-L-U. All different types of variations for your name. You want to, if the name of your brand is Blue Active, then maybe you want to try Active Blue. You want to try different spellings of active, all sorts of things. You want to make sure you put all those things into the search. What's probably going to happen is one of two things are going to happen. Either A, you're not going to get any hits at all. If that happens, I would be very nervous because there's probably somebody out there that's selling under a name that's somewhat similar to yours. The second thing that could happen is you're going to get like 10,000 hits, in which case you're going to need to really siphon those down because that's too many trademarks for anyone to look through. I really try and get mine when I'm doing my knockout searches down to, around 100 or so hits that I can really work with. I can't really explain how to do this, but I'm going to do a short little tutorial where I'm going to talk about how this works, and I'm going to do that right now. All right, so to go ahead and do a knockout search, what you're going to do is you're going to go to the USPTO website, and you can just go to Search Trademark Database and click on this little link here. And keeping with the example that I've used previously in the video, we're going to do a search for Blue Active. So let's go to Basic Word Mark Search, and you'll just do a search here for blue. Let's start with in quotes. And there's actually two that are listed, and they're both dead. So I do like to click through just to see what these look like. So you can see how in this application they did spell active differently, although they said blue the same. And let's go back. This one is active blue. So in this case, another great example, they spelled blue without the E, but active was spelled correctly. So this is kind of what can happen and this is why it's important that you want to search both the way the trademark is that you want to list it, as well as other variations, phonetic variations, spelling variations, things like that. So let's go back and do a search for just blue. And see, if you don't include the quotes, it's going to give you just, thousands, 367,000 results. So nobody can do that. So we'll go back to the freeform. The way you're going to do this in freeform is you'll put the name that you want to search in parentheses, and then you can, what I like to do is do this in the basic index. So you're going to, if you can see down here, this is the basic index right there. And then also I like to include, and always put it in parentheses, you want to make sure you're listing the international class potentially, which would be, let's see, where's the international class? IC. And so let's say you want to do class 25 and type IC, and let's do let's say t-shirts, and we'll do this with the goods and services. And let's see, where's that? Right there, goods and services, GS. So you're going to do GS. And then hit submit. And this narrows it down a little bit. Let's try putting quotes around blue active. Still not a lot of movement, probably because we have those t-shirts. If we did an and here, let's see what happens. Nothing. So what's my point here is you need to play around with this to see if, let me just take this out and see what happens if we do just this. It's just those two. So you want to play around with this to see if anyone else has a name that's deceptively similar to yours. You want to change, and just if you have questions about where to go for this, go to this free form, and you just want to make sure you're posting what you're looking for in parentheses, and then where you're looking for it in brackets, and you can go right down here, and international class is a big one, goods and services is another one, basic index is another one that you want to be looking for, and that's how you can do kind of a knockout search to make sure that you're not using the name that or that nobody else is using the name that you're looking to register. If I was doing a search for Blue Active at this point, I think I would be okay to proceed to a comprehensive search. The next thing you need to do is a comprehensive search. Now, I'm not gonna lie, it's really hard to do a good comprehensive search on your own without the help of a lawyer. And the reason for that is because as lawyers, we typically use very expensive software to do these searches, and I mean, it can cost anywhere from $150 to $200, upwards of $1,000, $1,500 to do a proper comprehensive search. And I'm not talking about the lawyer fee, I'm talking about the cost to use the software. So you just need to understand that we're using very powerful software to make sure that we're clearing these marks for our clients. And so if you're trying to do a comprehensive search on your own, it's really kind of a crapshoot. I mean, the best thing you can do is you're going to need to go to Google and do a search for your name and all the different alternatives for your name. You are going to need to go on social media platforms and do a search for your name. You're going to want to go to Amazon, do a search for your name. You're going to go to, all these different places, and you really need to do a proper search for your name everywhere to make sure it's not being used. When we do these searches and we order these searches, it automatically searches all these databases for us, and so it makes it very easy, but you just need to understand that you need to do a comprehensive search. If you're sitting there thinking, well, why is that important in the first place? Well, go back to what I talked about at the very beginning of the video. If you don't do a proper search and you try to apply for a trademark that somebody else is already using, then your trademark application is likely going to get denied, or you could receive a cease and desist letter from somebody else who sees that you filed an application for a trademark that's deceptively similar to theirs, and they clearly are not going to like that. So you really need to make sure you do that comprehensive search. It's a really important part of this process. So once you've done the comprehensive search, the next step of what you need to do is you really want to write out and really get descriptive about what it is that you're actually going to be selling, and make sure you include everything. So if you're selling t-shirts, then are you selling t-shirts through a retail store? Are you selling with an online store? If you're selling them with an online store, then you probably want to register for the website that you're going to be selling those t-shirts on, so which would be called an online retail store in class 35, as well as you're also going to want to register t-shirts themselves, which is a type of clothing, which is going to be in class 25. In addition, you may want to register your website as an information source, maybe a blog, things like that, entertainment that you might be using under the brand, which would be a different class. So as you can see, there could be multiple classes of where you're actually selling goods and services and the types of goods and services you're selling. And a lot of people who don't know any better just think, oh, I'm selling t-shirts, and so they list t-shirts on their application, when in reality, they actually have multiple classes that they need to include on their trademark application, and you want to make sure you get those nailed down from the outset before you actually file your application. If you mess this up and you need to add classes later, you can't do that. You would have to file a separate application later on for additional classes. And it's better just to get these all included the right way from the very beginning. And so the last thing you want to make sure you do is prepare the trademark application. Now there's a couple things you're going to need to do this. You're going to go to uspto.gov, link down below, and you're going to need to register for an account. If you're in the United States, you're fine. You can do it on your own if you really want. If you're outside the United States, then you probably are going to need a lawyer to help you, because as a foreign individual, you can't actually represent yourself in front of the US Patent and Trademark Office for purposes of submitting a trademark application. You need to make sure that you have an attorney doing it for you. Now, there's a number of mistakes that I see people make when they're doing their trademark application, and if you want to stick with me and head right to the next video, check out this video on the mistakes I see people make. But that's the next step. Fill the trademark application out, and there you go. So I'll see you in the next video. Have a good day, folks. Take care.